Hello, so I want to walk you through the process that I followed to redesign the logo for the brand. So this is the original logo that we have on screen. So that's the current logo. So at the first attempt, I tried to create different versions, simplified versions of this icon, which is the brain. But we found out that it is very difficult to get a real abstract symbol of the brain because it's tend to look something different. And also when it gets a lot smaller, you even lose the meaning of the actual brain. But after our initial discussion about the meaning of the logo, it was the combination of the technology part with the organic part that creates something that grows. That's why the leaf, because it grows, and it is an experiment that we're doing with technology that creates something that actually is organic and growth. So keeping those core ideas as a core concept, I wanted to simplify the logo without losing its original meaning. And so in that attempt, I went overly simplistic. So okay, so let's only keep whatever those two symbols, the technology part and the organic or the leaves, which is the nature part. And all right, so that's a starting point. It's way too simplistic. It's losing a lot of the meaning. Like without the glass, we're losing the representation of the experiment that we are doing with this technology. So I was lucky that I found the original icon that was used for the logo. So I was using the same one. The only thing that I did to the glass part, I made the neck of the glass not as tall. As you can see, it's a little bit shorter, just for the sake of space. But at least we're able to communicate. So now we have the technology inside of a solid shape of the glass. So we have the core elements there. But I felt it's too much, like too much going on, too many dots. And so I kept the progression. Also, I redid the leaves because I wanted to make that space, that gap, to be a little bit wider, especially when you go smaller. I don't want to lose that details. That's why I went ahead and redesign redid the leaf so that way I can have this bigger gap. And you can see the difference here, how this one is the original leaves, and that's the I mean, just small details, but it make a huge difference when you get to a smaller size, that we don't lose those details that is a leaf. But then I went back and tried to experiment with these details, and I wanted to simplify it again. What's the most simplification that I can get with this core element? It's just the line with the dots. So let's use fewer one that also communicates the same message. So we're not losing the message, we're just simplifying to the most possible graphics. That one, yeah, the technology part is coming across. We have the glass, we have the leaf, everything's working together, but I felt like it looks more like a Christmas tree decoration. But I just doing to experiment, simplifying it even more. But then it's creating extra noise without enhancing the message. So the message is the same. So I felt like we were adding more complexity to it without increasing the messaging. So it was kind of pointless complexity there. So I went ahead and oversimplified with only three lines. I think that that's a good balance there, and we still have the same message. So you can see that we went from over complex to oversimplified, but we never lost that meaning, the communication that we have for these lines, which is the technology and an experiment that grows organically. And this is the last version that I wanted to make sure, because when it was empty, the glass, then it was kind of white glass, but then when I put it full, then it looks too solid. But I want to show that there's something happening here with this glass. We're doing some experiments, so that's why I added like this, so it looks like there's liquid in there, and the technology is part of the combination that we are doing experiment with. And I think that this at the end we made this side to be a little bit wider, thicker lines, and this one thinner, just to give some more dimensions to the glass. And I think that this one represent really well. As I was doing the progression of these logos, I was also placing it on, where is it? So I was also doing the experiment, placing that as I was doing the different versions, I placed it over here because I want to make sure that when it gets smaller, that we don't lose the symbolism that we have on this icon. And you can see how they hold very well together. And even this last one, when it's the last one that I chose, we have all the elements there. We have the leaf, we have the glass, we have the portion, the liquid inside with the technology part. So all the elements are holding very well together, even at smaller size. So at that moment, I was very happy with the icons that we have. We have a solid icon that can easily be represented with a single flat color, as we can see on the screen. So the next step was going to be to select the font. Because it is two word, I wanted to make sure that it's a condensed font. That way we can make the logo bigger because it in a shorter space. For example, by being condensed, you can enlarge the logo, because otherwise it's too wide and then we're limited, and then we need to shrink the logo to make it fit. But having the condensed font help alleviate that problem. And I tried different fonts. I end up choosing this one over here, this one, because all the letters are, like, for example, this one kind of open and everything, but this one, it fits well. The only thing that I didn't like about this one is the dots on the J and the I, or squared. I prefer the circle one, which go along with the other symbolism that we have on the icon. So I modified that font so I have the dots, the circles, instead of the square eyes. And this is how it looks. You can see here, that's how it looks with the square. Then with the dot, that dot was too small, so I increased the dot of the J and the I a little bit bigger, and I think that fits nice. Now the only thing that we're missing is the tagline, because Project Signs, it's cool names, cool iconography, but if somebody sees on the street or somebody sees on the website, they might not even immediately know what it is about. So I feel like having a tagline to tell exactly what is it, it's gonna help. And that's why I mean, for now I'm using IT quotation made easy, and I think that encapsulates what we're trying to do, what's the product it's doing about. We do IT quotations and we made it super easy for them. So Project Science, IT quotations made easy. So I think that it is a solid, complete logo. We're not losing any of the original symbolism. We still have the same messaging, but it's done in a much cleaner and graphical way. And these colors, I chose it because it comes the inspiration from the original logo. So we have the same greens, the magentas, and the blues. So we are keeping the same color palette of the original logo, but we are using a more controlled and more simplistic way that creates a very solid logo. So I hope you like it. And then the implementation for it, if actually, let me go to the website. So let me log out over here. So you can see how the login page, now you have the icon, the logo, everything's pretty neat. So we have welcome back. This is the sign in page. When you sign in, we have the logo on the dashboard. And that's the only place that I kept the logo, because once you go to the profile on my company, I mean, you already know that it's there. We don't need to keep adding that. I prefer to keep these titles, the main thing on these pages, but when you go to a dashboard, then this is the brand. On this dashboard, I also included some KPIs. I feel like these are gonna be the most significant one. My goal is that if somebody leaves on the weekend, then come back on Monday morning, I have no idea what happened last week. So this gives me a quick overview of the things that I need to pay attention for. For example, if I have 11 signed contracts or quotes, then I need to follow up, because that means that we are ready to start. Or if I have 8 incomplete quotations, that means that, hey, but pay attention to it. So I think that having these KPIs, it's gonna help the user to kind of navigate and put focalize on the things that matters the most at the moment. So I think that, I mean, we can change those to labels, but I thought that's a good addition to it. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. The content is pretty much the same, just different layout, standardizing everything as I go. Again, already thinking on, once we start creating the HTML and CSS, I'm already defining the symbols and the things that are going to be consistent. Like, for example, this the input, that text input, select, the checkboxes, the switches, the buttons, the icons. So all these are all the elements that it's going to be created that we are using across the different screens. We have the colors as well, the accent colors, the alert colors, and that's the palette that we're using throughout the prototype. But other than that, you feel free to just play around, click on it, you can log out, log in back in and create a new quote. Right now these links are not working. Whenever you see something highlighting, that's what it's clickable. And this part over here, it works like that because this one on the actual HTML is going to be consistent there, because technically you should be able to scroll this left side independent from scrolling this part, because that way I can scroll this part and then move it to the place that I want on the left side. But then it is too much going on to have it all the time, so I am going to hide it, so you only have this dual whenever you need it. Then you can close it and you only have the search at the end. But that's why for the prototype purpose it's behaving like that, but that's the intention. But you can see that my main goal was to standardize as much as possible, just to avoid having different type of controls in different pages. That helps the user to familiarize in a much quicker way with the application. Once you start using a consistent components or controls, then whenever they see it on the next page, they already know how to use it and how to behave, which alleviate the learning curve and the experience of the application. But I think that everything's there, and so I'll be waiting to hear back any inputs, any feedback before we can close this phase. Once this is approved, then the next step is going to be building the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript native for the interactions. All right, so I'll be waiting to hear back from you. Thanks.